Paula had somehow failed to get a job in her specialty. But where would she find experience if she had just graduated from university? She tried to understand the requirements of employers. But she wouldn't be building rockets, she would be planting flowers. They would have given her a more modest project to start with, to show her what she could do. One employer with a nasty, streamlined face, even argued his refusal with a cynical statement that, pictures from the portfolio she found on the internet and as her own provides for consideration. Well-mannered girl could not stand it any longer and answered rudely. You show me on the internet at least one, I'll eat the whole folder with a portfolio in front of your eyes. But the employer did not find it necessary to discuss with her, and called the secretary, told to escort the applicant. No, she would never understand these owners in her life. Paula was so desperate for a job that she was willing to accept a lower salary. If only they'd hire her. She was tired of counting pennies, denying herself even modest girlish pleasures like cookies or a pretty hair clip. That day she stayed home late and was almost late for the interview. Paula began to review her simple closet in the hope of learning something more or less suitable and not requiring ironing. There was no time to fiddle with the iron. I found black jeans that looked like pants. They were a classic cut, without jewelry, and could fit any dress code. Running out of the entrance, the girl almost fell at the very threshold of the house. Paula could barely stay on her feet and, overcoming the pain in her hip, quietly walked toward the bus stop. No, if everyone is against me, I probably shouldn't go to the interview. They won't accept me anyway. She thought desperately. Her whole morning had been a mess. But then she pulled herself together, knowing that she would regret not going. No, whatever happens. If she left the house, then go where she was going. Even the weather did not inspire optimism in the girl. Yesterday's first snow of the year had melted overnight, turned into a nasty wet mud, gray and unpleasant to look at. It was gloomy, dreary, and damp. If it weren't for the hope of getting a job, she wouldn't have left the house. She would have lounged under a warm blanket and snuggled with her cat. She wouldn't even go out for bread. She'd live like that. But Merzilka has to be fed, and not today. Tomorrow I'll have to share my food with her. Whether cats eat human food, the girl did not know. When she got to the bus stop, Paula looked at the bus schedule. She looked at her watch and sighed doomfully. Probably not. She turned to the bench to sit down and noticed the old man sitting on it. He was crying. Suddenly he looked up at her with eyes full of despair, tears streaming down his cheeks. Paula was frightened. Suddenly something terrible had happened to the old man. She came over. "Grandpa, what's wrong?" When he tried to speak, she realized that his strength was running out. He was warmly dressed, but his hands were shivering from the cold. He must have been sitting on that bench for a long time, and he must have gotten chilled. How much do old men need in their health to keep warm even in warm weather? Everything about her life was gone from Paul's mind. Only one thought remained. If she did not help this elderly man, he would soon die of hypothermia on this bench. She resolutely took his icy hand and said, "Let's go and warm up." Not far from the stop was a cafe where the girl sometimes went to drink a very tasty coffee. It was there that she headed with the old man. He did not resist, did not say anything, went next to the girl supporting him. The cafe was deserted. The weather was not favorable to go to the store for necessary things, let alone to the cafe for a walk. She sat down opposite the old man at a table in the back of the hall. She asked the waiter for hot tea with lemon, a couple of sandwiches for her grandfather, and ordered coffee with a croissant for herself. When the kettle with the hot drink was in front of the old man, he immediately put his cold hands on it and sighed with relief. Paula drank coffee and waited patiently for her companion to come to his senses and tell him what had happened. After warming himself with tea and eating sandwiches, the grandfather said his name was Alvaro. "I'm new to this town. His son brought him here from the village. I didn't want to go. I told him I'd die at home, but he wouldn't leave me alone at my age. He's a good son, caring." The old man even had a better look in his eyes when he talked about his son. "Finn, my son is a late child, our only child. My wife gave birth when she was over 40 years old. We raised our son, he grew up to be a good man. Only he didn't want to live far from the city after school. He went to the city to study and stayed there. He kept asking me and my wife to come and live with him. But we didn't want to. And when I buried my beloved wife, a tear appeared in a deep wrinkle in my eye. But my son wouldn't let me. I'm not leaving you here alone, father." End of story. I understand him. He wouldn't give up his business to come and look after me. He didn't feel comfortable with me being alone. I had to do nothing, so I agreed not to upset my son. For the second week I have been living in this city, I wanted to please my son today, to make his favorite sweets. Seeing Paula's surprised eyes, the old man smiled. "Yes, in our family there was no division between men's and women's work. And when my wife was sick for a long time before she died, I learned to cook. I went to the store to buy groceries and got lost. I walked, probably got farther away from home. I sat on a bench and I don't know what to do. I don't even remember the street where our house stands. If it wasn't for you, Paula, I would have died on that bench. I was freezing, I was desperate to get out. I left my cell phone at home. My son told me to always take it with me, but I thought it wouldn't take long, so I didn't need it. What am I supposed to do now?" "Don't worry, please don't worry. We'll find your son. Do you remember any landmarks near your house?" "What kind of landmark?" "There's a lot of cars, not many trees." "That's what I'm looking for." "Yeah, we can't find your house with that." "Is your house tall?" "Oh, it's very tall. When I look up, it throws me backwards." A thought flashed through Paul's mind. "What color is your house?" "It's so bright, it hurts my eyes." "Who thought of that?" "I think I know where you live. Let's do this. Let's go to my place. You need to lie down and rest. And I'll try to find your Finn." "Okay." Grandfather nodded in agreement. He didn't want to go outside at all, he was freezing to the bone. He agreed to go outside, but he didn't have time. At that moment Paula didn't think at all whether it was worth leaving a stranger in the house. The only thing of value there was her little darling. But that one has a temperament that doesn't fit into everyone's hands. You'd be hard-pressed to steal it. And I don't think that old man, exhausted by his adventures, could bear anything. After making Alvaro comfortable on the couch and covering him with her favorite blanket to keep him warm, Paula said, "You just wait for me, please. Don't go anywhere. Promise me when I come back, I'll catch you right here." He only replied, "Thank you, girl," and looked into her eyes with gratitude. The girl was well aware of the new high-rise of beautiful appearance. What she would do when she found the house, Paula had not yet thought. She decided that she would figure it out on the spot. Coming to the entrance of the house, she saw through the glass door of the guard's room. In many expensive houses there are men sitting at the entrance, suspiciously watching those entering and leaving. Usually these guards know everything and everything about everyone. Paula rejoiced. The guard might be able to help her. To her surprise, a pleasant woman no older than 50 sat behind the window. She looked up from her knitting and answered the girl's question, "Yes, There is a grandfather and his son's name is Finn. They live in apartment 35. Only there's no one there. The man's at work and the old man went out this morning and hasn't come back. Grandpa's with me. He's lost. Do you have anything to write the address on? Please tell Finn we're waiting for him. Don't let him worry. Giving the woman a piece of paper with the address and phone number written on it, Paula hurried home. She was a little worried that her guest, having rested, would not start looking for new adventures. And she was right in her worries. Because on the threshold of the apartment she was greeted by the smell of frying potatoes and some rumbling sounds from the kitchen. Quickly taking off her coat and boots in the hallway, the girl hurried there. A pretty picture appeared before her. Alvaro was stirring a rather large amount of fried potatoes in a frying pan. On a chair near the table sat the cat and happily arched her back when the old man found time to run his hand over it. When did you two become friends? Paula asked in surprise as she entered the kitchen. She's wild. I've been dealing with animals all my life. They sense me. Alvaro smiled and stroked the cat again. The cat rumbled with pleasure. And your cat and I thought we'd make you something to eat. Are you hungry? Thank you, Paula said. She was really hungry, and the smell of potatoes was overwhelming. Dash, what did he put in it that smells like that? I found your son. I mean, not him, but your house. And Finn's at work, so you'll stay with me while he comes to pick you up. You won't get bored, will you? Visitors are welcome, aren't they, cat? But the cat didn't care about her mistress. Grandpa was stroking her again. Thank you, Paula. You eat potatoes and onions, don't you? I found a couple onions in the refrigerator. Paula now realized where the fried potatoes smelled so divine. It's just onions, but it smells so good. Why is your fridge so empty, girl? Are you starving or what? Asked the old man, when they had already settled down at the table in front of a frying pan with fragrant potatoes. I just graduated from the institute, I can't find a job. I want to specialize, but no one will take me without experience. And where can I get that experience? So we're living off random earnings with the cat. And even those are almost all spent on rent. Well, nothing, after a black streak always comes a white one, the girl waved her hand. Dash, we'll find a job, she'll get away from us. Right, kitty cat? She didn't really feel like crying in front of a stranger. She answered his question. That was enough. She turned the conversation to something else. They had already eaten, and the girl was washing the dishes when the doorbell rang. Opening it, Paula saw a young man in his 30s, out of breath in an unbuttoned coat. Hi, I'm Finn. I was told you had Dad. Hearing his voice, Alvaro stepped into the hallway. With excitement, forgetting to ask permission to enter, the young man rushed to him, began to hug him. Dash, well, Dad, how can you do this? You're driving me crazy, I told you to bring your cell phone. Okay, don't swear, the old man patted him on the shoulder. It's okay. I'll be smarter from now on, it won't happen again. Of course it won't, because I'm going to chain you by the leg to the bed so you stay home and don't run around the streets. Laughing, he patted his father on the shoulder and turned to the landlady and told him. Thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you. I mean, he's as fidgety as a baby. I need to keep an eye on him. I'm gonna have to chain him to the bed, he said cheerfully to his father. Dash, get your ass home. How long can you abuse a girl's hospitality? As Paula closed the door behind the men, she suddenly remembered her failed job interview. She thought that she was not the least bit sorry that it had happened. There was still the interview, but no one else could help her grandfather. The next day she was in no hurry to get anywhere. It was Saturday, and most firms had the day off. So the job search was postponed until Monday. The doorbell rang suddenly. Paula was still in bed and decided not to open the door. But the visitor was not going to give up so easily. Again, already more insistent, rang the bell. Sighing, the girl threw on a robe, went out into the hallway. When she opened the door, she was stunned with surprise. In front of her stood her yesterday's casual acquaintance Finn. He was holding a huge bouquet of roses. "Hello," he said, holding out the bouquet to her. "May I come in?" Not understanding anything, Paula let the young man into the hallway, taking the flowers. "Thank you," was all she could say, inhaling the incredibly intoxicating scent of fresh roses. "Paula," the visitor turned to her, "we parted so abruptly yesterday, I didn't even have time to get to know you better. And then I regretted it, because such kind and sympathetic people as you are now, unfortunately, very few. My dad told me everything about his adventure. A lot of people passed by him before you, but nobody paid attention to the old man. If it hadn't been for you, I might have lost him. So I want to thank you and invite you to my house. Please don't forget that. Alvaro said you really enjoyed his food yesterday. He's got golden hands, he can do anything better than a professional. And he's expecting the two of us now for his specialty dumplings. No refusal. You can't take no for an answer. You don't want to upset the man whose life you saved yesterday, do you?" No, of course she didn't. Especially since she'd noticed yesterday how cute Alvaro's son was. So, after seeing the guest into the living room, she rushed to clean herself up. A year later, Paula and Finn were married. And they, sitting at the festive table, next to Alvaro, shining from their own importance in this event, in love and happy, suddenly remembered with gratitude that gloomy autumn day, which became for each of them the beginning of a new life. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next videos. Subscribe to our channel. All the best to you.